more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Vielleicht nur als Impulsland.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Modi Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas. With the Russia-Ukraine war entering a deadlier phase, we get you the latest on Russia's revenge campaign. We also tell you how Kiev's air defenses are under growing pressure and the implications of Trump's move to redirect thousands of anti-drone missiles meant for Ukraine. We get to that in just a bit. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We get to the latest on the Los Angeles riots and focus on the dark truths about America. Did Iran get hold of Israel's nuclear secrets? We tell you what the country is saying. What happens next? We get to the complete story and the bigger picture. All this and lots more coming your way. There is a new sense of urgency for Russia. The Russian forces are launching their most blistering aerial attacks on Ukraine. On the ground, Russian forces are breaking through Ukrainian defenses. Ukraine's forces are forced to retreat in the face of the Russian assault. Our next report takes a look at the front lines in the eastern and northeastern parts of Ukraine.
First came the aerial bombardment. Russian missiles and drone attacks have led to devastation across Ukraine. Now on the ground, Russian troops are on the move at breathtaking speed. From the east, heavy columns of armor and artillery have surged into Ukraine's Sumy region, inching perilously closer within 20 kilometers of the city itself. Multiple Ukrainian frontline positions have fallen in recent days, even as civilians flee their homes. These are images from Ukraine's Donetsk region, where Russian troops are celebrating their victory. Despite talk of peace, the war is stepping up, with Russian forces grabbing more territory in Ukraine. Ukrainian troops are mounting heavy resistance. These images released by Ukrainian military show destruction of 2 Russian turtle tanks. In the east, armored divisions are advancing into Dnipro, pushing on the Donetsk border. This marks the first major Russian encroachment into the region in years and threatens to sever Ukraine's frontline defensive geography. Mazova, a town just 13 kilometers from the flashpoint Donetsk region, now risks becoming a target for a Russian ground offensive.
Here's my situation. I'm from Donetsk Oblast, from the city of Pokrovsk. And when the Russians were approaching our city, we were also told, no, this won't happen, it's impossible, they won't come. And then somehow it happened that they passed through, and very quickly. And I no longer rely on guesswork.
It's not just tanks. In response to Ukraine's airfield raids, Russia unleashed unrelenting drone missile barrages across multiple regions. Cities from Kharkiv to Zaporizhia, from Sumy to Ternopil have been pounded with relentless fire. Fuel stations exploding, civilian buildings crumbling, infrastructure shattered.
I
was on the other side of the building where the hit occurred. I saw the blip. My flat was not damaged.
На щастя, моїх хатів все обійшлося.
Лежали на кроваті, скажімо так. В той момент, як
We were lying on the bed when it exploded. It exploded. Everything fell apart. A girl was trapped in the apartment next door. She was calling for help, and the fire started. Our neighbors and we tried to put it out on our own with our buckets. Then the SES arrived.
сусіді і ми, потім
In Ukraine, evacuations are underway. Dozens of villages were cleared last week. Homes abandoned and families scattered. Ukraine's defenses brace for a storm without pauses. Ground attacks, air raids, drone swarms converging to obliterate resistance. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Пиздец, просто пиздец.
And there is no stopping the Russians. Ukrainian Air Force saying that Russia has launched 479 drones against Ukraine in the biggest overnight drone bombardment of the 3-year-long war. As Russia continues to step up its drone and missile attacks on Ukraine, there is a fresh headache for Kiev. The Trump administration is diverting key anti-missile defense systems from Ukraine. Our next story explaining why this leaves Ukraine vulnerable in one of its darkest hours.
Russian air forces unleashed a horrific wave of aerial bombardment last week. More than 500 Shahid drones, cruise missiles, Iskander-M ballistic missiles and other heavy weapons. From Kharkiv to Sumy, from Kyiv to Kherson, no region was spared. Explosions later the night. knocking out power, destroying houses and military installations. Kyiv says civilian casualties are soaring.
There was an explosion and everything started falling off. Nearby, a girl was blocked in the apartment and was calling for help. The fire broke up. We were trying to put it out ourselves with our buckets, together with our neighbors.
Very bad, very bad. I was so scared, terribly scared. I jumped up. Luckily, since the war began, I had taped the window with duct tape. The glass, the shards didn't get into the room.
But Ukraine's defenders are running out. Ukrainian air defense systems are desperately running low on ammunition. Now, a critical shipment of 20,000 anti-drone missiles was abruptly rerouted to American forces to West Asia. A big setback for Ukrainian military. Zelensky has been pleading for urgent help from his allies. Trump's decision to divert missiles, including laser-guided APKWS rockets, crucial for downing drones, is a devastating blow. As Putin hovers above Ukraine in his revenge campaign, Kyiv's skies have never been more dangerous. As bombs keep falling and the drone swarms intensify, Kyiv prepares for what may be its darkest hour. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And as Russia pushes deeper into Ukraine, NATO is busy ramping up its defenses. A world war level preparation is underway as it fears that it could be at war next. And Germany, Europe's biggest economy, is leading NATO's charge. Germany is accelerating its civil defense plans by reviving old bunkers and plans to turn metro tunnels and underground garages into shelters in case of a war. The expanded bunkers could potentially house 1 million people underground, a number still far from the total population of 84 million. As of now, Germany has room for just 480,000 people in its 580 shelters. That is less than 1% of its population. Germany's civil protection chief says that while a full-scale Russian invasion is unlikely, the country remains a logistical hub for NATO, making it a target for selective strikes. And so hospitals are being prepared to hold 1,000 extra patients daily in case of war. Emergency alerts, air raid sirens, even compulsory military service are all back on the table. Earlier, the German Chancellor said that he wants to build Europe's strongest army. The defense minister is even considering bringing back conscription, scrapped in 2011. If not enough young Germans volunteer. And Germany is not alone, by the way. Across NATO, countries are arming faster than ever. According to SIPRI, Germany was the world's fourth largest military spender in 2024. Behind only the US, China and Russia. In total, NATO members now spend $1.5 trillion a year on defense. 1/3 of that from Europe alone. Russia calls it Western fear-mongering. Just today, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov slammed NATO as an instrument of aggression, especially as the US-led military alliance prepares to boost air defense spending by 400%. But the frontline NATO states, they are not waiting. Poland, which shares borders with both Russia and Belarus, is going all in. Poland plans to spend 5% of its GDP on defense in 2026. This is a significant increase from its current spending, which was 4.7% of the GDP. Warsaw's goal, in fact, is to build a 500,000 strong army, and mass military training for all adult men has already started. What's more, Poland is also investing $2 billion to build barriers at its border with Russia. Last month itself, it also moved to withdraw from the Ottawa Treaty, which is an agreement between 165 countries to ban the use of landmines. Major powers like the US and Russia are not part of that treaty. In Poland, calls to withdraw from the treaty grew amid fears of the Russian attack. Poland, home to 2 million Ukrainian refugees, says it's seen Russia's wrath up close and is now preparing for the worst. 3 other NATO nations, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, have all quit the landmine ban treaty to allow for more flexibility in defense, a very crucial move. Norway as well is reviving Cold War bunkers in Europe's north. Finland is also reinforcing its 1,300-kilometer border with Russia. Helsinki, in fact, has pledged to increase defense spending to 3% of its GDP. Shelters are being built amid Western reports that Russia has started expanding its military bases just 100 miles from Finnish soil. Far from the Russian border, in the UK, 12 nuclear-powered submarines and 6 new munitions factories are in the works. Recently, the British Prime Minister said he will be restoring Britain's war-fighting readiness, and the UK government worries growing Russian aggression. And the NATO knows it must do more. The alliance is now asking its European members to expand air defense systems 5-fold. A major summit later this month in The Hague will set targets for ammunition stockpiles as well as defense production in order to cut reliance on the United States. But here's the thing, as Europe scrambles to prepare for Russia, the US is watching China. Over the weekend, the US Defense Secretary, speaking in Singapore, warned of an imminent threat from Beijing. It's no secret that more than Russia, America sees the Indo-Pacific and especially Taiwan as the next flashpoint. And China is building faster than ever before, by the way. As things stand right now, China has the world's largest navy. It has made big advances in hypersonic missiles and AI warfare. It has bases near Taiwan and is increasingly asserting its presence in the South China Sea. War experts saying that even a small spark there could ignite a global conflict. Shifting focus for now to the United States, Los Angeles is waking up after a long and violent Sunday night. Over the weekend, protests over immigration raids escalated into full-blown street clashes. So much so that President Trump sent military force into LA to tackle the violence. So what really happened in America's entertainment capital? It all started last Friday. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, carried out raids on multiple locations across Los Angeles. Heavily armed agents detained dozens of undocumented immigrants in what has been described as an overly aggressive anti-immigration crackdown. And by the weekend, the anger spilled out onto the streets. Los Angeles, which is home to a large Latino community, saw protests break out across the city. Protesters clashed with the police, hurled rocks, torched vehicles, even self-driving Waymo cars. In response, the police fired tear gas, smoke grenades, rubber bullets. Officers tried to disperse the demonstrators as fires burned in downtown streets. In the clash, even a journalist from Australia was hit by a rubber bullet fired by the police. The moment was caught on video, showing the reporter crying out in pain and grabbing her leg after being hit.
You just shut the f*** up! After hours of standing off this situation has now rapidly deteriorated. The LAPD moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
They don't even know that are documented or undocumented. They're just grabbing people and like pulling them in vans. And that's like the scary thing about it. It creates a big fear, in the communities. So it's like I can come to like go to school, come back, and get a phone call and be like, my parents aren't here. Where are my parents?
But Trump's decisions have stunned even his critics. As the violence worsened, he called in the troops, ignoring the governor's objections. By ordering 2,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles to help quell the protests, Trump essentially mounted a takeover of the military regiments to address lawlessness on the streets there. The National Guard is a reserve military rooted in the 17th century local militias created in the American colonies before the country's founding. Since then, the Guard has had multiple responsibilities: domestic disaster relief, security, homeland defense, and prevention of civil unrest, and acting as reserve forces for the U.S. military deployments overseas. Presidential orders to deploy guardsmen domestically are not uncommon, but clashes between a president and governor over deployments, or the lack thereof, such as during the Capitol riots by Trump supporters on January 6, 2021, have been rare. And Trump's deployment of the National Guard marks the first time in decades that a U.S. president openly defied a state governor and sent troops to an emergency zone. In doing so, the White House said Trump relied on a seldom used law known as Title 10 that basically permits the National Guard federalization in terms of a rebellion, in times of a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. California governor called this purposefully inflammatory and a serious breach of state sovereignty. He also threatened to take Trump to court over this decision. On social media, as Trump called protesters insurrectionists, the governor urged protesters to remain peaceful and said, quoting, "Don't take Trump's bait." And if that wasn't enough, the U.S. Defense Secretary also warned that the Pentagon was prepared to mobilize active duty troops if the violence continues in Los Angeles, saying the Marines at nearby Camp Pendleton were on high alert. And the streets of downtown LA looked like a war zone. By Sunday afternoon, Los Angeles police had established barricades around federal buildings, separating protesters from scores of armed National Guardsmen. The 79th Infantry Brigade combat team was spotted in full camouflage, helmets, gear, and by evening, authorities declared downtown Los Angeles an area of unlawful assembly. Authorities declared a state of unlawful assembly there. The LAPD sealed off federal buildings while troops from the 79th Infantry lined up with helmets and camouflage gear. At least 56 people were arrested. 3 officers were injured. The Los Angeles Police Department said it would not have deployed the National Guard to quell the unrest, and that the troops' involvement was directed top down from President Trump's orders.
Could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments in LA County as well as the sheriff's office. And so that didn't occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through the up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happen, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard.
And Trump, he hinted at nationwide deployments in response to a question about invoking the Insurrection Act, which would allow the military to be used as a domestic police force. Trump said, I'm quoting, "We are looking at troops everywhere. We are not going to let this happen to our country," quote unquote. The entire episode has sparked political outrage. Democrats, including Kamala Harris, have called this a dangerous escalation. 22 Democratic governors on Sunday, in fact, condemned Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard in LA. In a joint statement, they called it an alarming abuse of power. But Republicans are backing Trump. House Speaker accused California governor of failing to maintain order. Politics aside, the protesters saying they are outraged, not just by ICE raids, but by what they see as an attack on their constitutional rights. The Los Angeles unrest has become the largest and most intense pushback against Trump's immigration policies yet. And if this weekend is any indication, the politics around immigration enforcement is not going to die down anytime soon. On to Iran now. It has reportedly got its hands on what it calls strategic and sensitive Israeli intelligence. It says the material includes details about Israel's nuclear sites, defense capabilities, and foreign ties. Iran has said that the information was obtained during a covert operation and includes thousands of documents, images, video recordings, according to Iranian intelligence minister Ismail Khatib. These materials will soon be made public.
We protect both the methods of transfer and the documents themselves, and that's why it took time to announce them, to ensure they could be transferred to the country with full security. Naturally, the methods of transfer will also remain confidential and protected. These ways of transferring them won't be published very soon, but the documents, God willing, will be published soon.
Iranian media identified two Israelis, Roy Mizrahi and Almog Atiyas, as the alleged agents who gathered and transferred the intelligence. Iranian reports claim they received instructions through the Telegram messaging app and payments from Iranian agents via cryptocurrency. The two agents allegedly also plotted to assassinate the Israeli defense minister. According to Israeli media reports, both the agents were arrested by the Israeli police in late April on suspicion of collecting intelligence on behalf of Iran. They reportedly attended the same high school and had no prior criminal record. The arrests are the latest in what Israeli security agencies describe as a growing Iranian espionage campaign inside the country. Earlier in March, another Israeli citizen was arrested for allegedly attempting to sell nuclear secrets to Iranian intelligence. The individual reportedly offered sensitive information related to Israel's Negev Nuclear Research Center. And back in January, authorities arrested two Israeli army reservists. One of them, reportedly a former member of the Iron Dome missile defense unit, allegedly handed over classified data, including footage of the Iron Dome system in operation. That security breach came just weeks before Iran launched a missile barrage on October 1 last year. Over 180 ballistic missiles were fired. Several reportedly struck Israeli air bases and other sensitive military sites. Last December itself, nearly 30 people, most of them Israeli Jews, were arrested on charges of spying for Iran. And in October 2024, Israeli security agencies nabbed 7 individuals accused of collecting intelligence on 2 army bases. Those same bases were later attacked by a joint strike from Iran and Hezbollah. But this is far from the first chapter in this shadow war between the two sides. In 2018, Israeli intelligence agency Mossad reportedly seized thousands of documents from Tehran detailing Iran's nuclear weapons program. That operation is believed to have influenced the Trump administration's decision to exit the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. Since 2007, 6 Iranian nuclear scientists have been assassinated. Iran blames Mossad for these targeted assassinations. Israel, though, has never claimed responsibility for any of them. And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. After 4 decades, an Indian astronaut is set to soar into space. We tell you more and look at what this means for India's space journey. We tell you all about Al-Qaeda's regional proxy and how it's posing a growing threat to Western Africa. How does music affect the growth of plants? Which kind of music is considered better for them? We tell you what a study has found. Former Mossad chief Yossi Cohen is reportedly exploring launching his own political party and run for the next general election in Israel. According to Israeli media reports, rather than join an established party, Cohen is reportedly leaning towards starting his own party. Cohen was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's national security advisor and later led Mossad under Netanyahu. The two reportedly share a close history. And according to Israeli media reports, Netanyahu has long viewed Cohen as a possible successor, along with Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer. In the past, Cohen had reportedly considered partnerships with several top Israeli political leaders, including former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, ex-Deputy Prime Minister Lieberman, as well as Netanyahu. But Israeli media reports saying that Cohen now prefers forming his own party, reportedly believing Israeli politics needs new leadership and direction. Cohen's political ambitions coming at a significant time, a rather turbulent time for Netanyahu's coalition. Ultra-Orthodox parties within the Israeli government have threatened to collapse the alliance over the failure to pass a bill exempting yeshiva students from military service, raising the prospect of early elections. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's popularity within Israel continues to slump. An Israeli survey last week found that if elections were held, parties aligned against Netanyahu, spearheaded by former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, could win 72 seats. In contrast, Netanyahu's current bloc would fall well short, projected to take just 48 seats, far below the 60-seat threshold required to form a government. Throughout the majority of last month, Israelis took to the streets, remember, across the country, protesting against Netanyahu and his government, calling for the immediate release of hostages held by Hamas, and against what they viewed as unnecessary prolonging of the Gaza war. Our next story is from India. It is moving full steam ahead to turn its navy into the most dominant strike force in the region. Between June and December, The Indian Navy will induct up to 10 new warships, which will be a powerful mix of submarines and frigates. And this is not just a fleet expansion. It's a signal, a message of readiness, self-reliance, and of its strong capability in the Indian Ocean region. The commissioning begins with the ASW SWC Arnala on June 18 in Visakhapatnam. ASW SWC standing for Anti-Submarine Warfare Shallow Water Craft. It's basically a ship designed for shallow water, anti-submarine warfare, coastal patrols and maritime surveillance, built under a public-private partnership between GRSE and L&T. The Arnala is named after the historic fort in Maharashtra, and this will be the first of 16 Arnala-class ships, all part of a homegrown effort to secure India's shores silently and swiftly. Standing at 77.6 meters, over 1490 gross tons, the Arnala is the largest Indian warship to use a diesel engine water jet combo for propulsion. All these features make the Arnala a force multiplier, as it can free up larger ships like destroyers and frigates for deep sea duties while guarding strategic coastal assets like ports, naval bases, and shipping lanes. And in modern naval warfare, where submarines are some of the deadliest threats, and ASW SWC like Arnala act as the Navy's submarine hunters. Also coming this month is INS Tamal, a stealth frigate built under a $2.5 billion Indo-Russian deal. Its sister ship, INS Tushil, was inducted last December. Two of these frigates were made in Russia, two in Goa shipyard using transferred Russian technology. And the list goes on. A diving support ship from Hindustan Shipyard, a Nilgiri-class Project 17A frigate from Mazagon Dock and GRSE, a large survey vessel, possibly another frigate before December. The Navy says it's getting faster at commissioning new ships. Time from design to deployment has dropped sharply, thanks to technological upgrades and more direct Navy involvement. And the Indigenization is also cutting the delivery time. Now the Indian Navy's target is 175 warships by 2035, and underwater, India is also asserting strength. After the 6th Kalvari-class submarine, INS Vakshir, was commissioned in January this year, talks are also on for a 6th submarine mega deal for next-gen attack submarines. And in the air, 13 of the 24 ordered MH-60R Seahawks have already arrived. 2 more will land within a month. These are high-tech, multi-role naval choppers from the United States. And that's not even all. India is also preparing to make a giant leap in airborne surveillance and precision strikes. The Defense Ministry is expected to clear a 10,000 crore rupee project to acquire 3 high-tech spy planes under the program. In fact, it stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, Target Acquisition and Reconnaissance. And these planes will be foreign-built, possibly by Boeing or Bombardier. But the onboard surveillance systems will be 100% Indian, developed by DRDO Center for Airborne Systems. And once operational, it will give India a clear day and night standoff capability to track, monitor, strike ground targets like radar sites, air defense units, and even mobile convoys. So what does all of this mean? It means that India is no longer just guarding its shores, it's also projecting its power. With stealth frigates, next-gen subs, and indigenous choppers, the Indian Navy is no longer just a blue water force, it's now the primary strike arm of India. Poised, prepared, and pushing the envelope of deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. Shifting focus for now, on Monday, the Pakistan Finance Minister unveiled the economic survey for 2024 to 25 ahead of the budget on Tuesday. Although it appears to be showing indications of recovery on paper, a comparison with the previous year's report indicates a more nuanced and less optimistic picture. According to the economic survey last year, which was published by the previous administration, the economy was in a precarious position. GDP growth was just 0.29%. Inflation, over 29%. The country was confronted with dire problems like low foreign reserves, a large current account deficit. And despite these challenges, the agricultural sector had done rather well, expanding by more than 6% on the back of record wheat and cotton crops. On the other hand, the industrial and service sectors had underperformed due to political instability and inconsistent policies. On Monday, the government said things got better in 2025, with GDP growth of 2.7%. However, that figure is questionable as it is higher than the IMF's 2.6% prediction. The survey showed inflation is down to 4.6%. and a smaller fiscal deficit of 2.6% of the GDP. But the real situation is very different. Agriculture, which had led growth last year, slowed down sharply to just 0.56% in 2025. Major crops like wheat and cotton saw big drops. To make up for this, the government tried to boost the growth numbers of livestock instead. The drop in interest rates from 22% to 11% was a good thing, but it came too late to actually save large-scale manufacturing, which is still shrinking. The services sector, especially retail and wholesale trade, grew very slowly at 0.14%, even though it is the biggest part of the economy. And the government is obligated to provide a comprehensive economic picture under the Fiscal Responsibility and Debt Limitation Act. However, in the 2025 survey, numerous problems are either not addressed or are being hidden. And these include rising energy circular debt, poor development at the provincial level, and ongoing debt repayments. The government's emphasis on showing positive indicators appears to be more of a public relations tactic for lenders like the IMF than an honest report for the public. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens still face food inflation, job shortages, and a faltering rupee. Switching gears for now, Western Africa is facing threat from a rapidly expanding force which has reportedly gone from the shadows to supremacy in just a matter of a few months. Al-Qaeda's regional proxy, JNIM, has seized key cities in Burkina Faso and Mali, and also carried out the deadliest ever attack on troops in Benin, killing 54 soldiers in an attack last month itself. And according to a report by the Wall Street Journal, the group imposed its hardline Islamist rule deeper into the region. Experts now call it the strongest jihadist outfit operating in West Africa, and among the most dangerous globally. The group has around 6,000 fighters as well as advanced weaponry. While the group has risen, American presence in the region has reportedly diminished. According to the Wall Street Journal report, drone operations from Niger have been shut down, relocation plans shelved, and the number of US troops plunged from 1,400 to under 200 in the region, mostly located along coastal nations. And that vacuum has led to the spread of the group, with the group reportedly having large parts of control stretching from western Mali to northern parts of Benin. And according to the Institute for Economics and Peace, over half of all global terrorism deaths last year happened in the Sahel, with Burkina Faso now ranking as the world's worst hit country by terrorism. Even historically quiet countries like Benin are now witnessing unprecedented levels of attacks. The group is reportedly spreading further. Besides armed incidents in countries like Ivory Coast and Niger, infiltration by the group has been reported in parts like Ghana, Senegal, with supply lines and informant networks already embedded. Officials fear armed fighters may soon follow in such countries. According to conflict researchers, the group now stocks its arsenal with weapons captured from defeated armies, like machine guns, drones, and even anti-aircraft systems. India stands on the brink of history. After 41 years, an Indian astronaut is set to soar into space, reigniting the country's space ambitions. Under Axiom Mission 4, the private astronaut flight will be the first one to carry an Indian astronaut to the International Space Station. The liftoff will be carried out on June 11, giving a head start to India's cosmic leap. This much-anticipated journey will be piloted by India's Shubhanshu Shukla.
The countdown has electrified 1 billion hearts. Indian Air Force Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla will blast off aboard SpaceX's Falcon 9. He is the first Indian astronaut in 41 years to venture into space, and the very first to set foot aboard the International Space Station. This is not just a mission, it is a giant leap for Indian science, pride and possibility. India spent over $60 million for the preparation for this mission. Shukla and his multinational crew will embark on a series of critical food experiments for the Indian Space Research Organization, pushing the boundaries of sustainable living in the unforgiving vacuum of space.
I think I'm excited about all the aspects of this mission, starting with the first time that we will be in a position to observe the Earth from a vantage point that only a handful of people on this planet have ever experienced. And after that, the experience of floating in microgravity and, everyday activities that seem so simple for us, like walking, sleeping, eating, or, drinking water, they all become very different once you are up in space. So I'm really looking forward to having that experience.
Shukla's parents are jubilant and are praying for his safe journey.
We are very happy and are anticipating with positivity that he complete his mission. We want him to complete it and be relaxed. We are extremely exalted as he inches closer to completing the mission. Everyone is very happy.
The 4-crew mission is launching from US in collaboration with private company Axiom Space aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule. This mission marks India's boldest manned space venture since Rakesh Sharma's 1984 Soyuz flight. Yet unlike a one-off, Shukla's journey into orbit is a strategic leap. Shukla is one of the 4 astronauts for India's ambitious Gaganyaan mission. Scheduled for launch in 2027, India aims to send up to a 3-member crew into low Earth orbit for up to 3 days. India's cosmic leap has truly begun. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
If you thought everyone gets the same benefits from exercise if they put in the exact same effort, you might want to think again. Let's tell you what a study says and what it tells us about the link between gender and exercise. According to a new study, women may not need to work out as long or as hard as men to enjoy the same heart health benefits. In fact, researchers have found that women can achieve the same cardiovascular perks as men with roughly half the effort. Now, before men say it's unfair or question it, let's just break this down for you. The study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology showed that when women clocked in just 2.5 hours of moderate to vigorous exercise per week, like brisk walks, bike rides, or dance fitness classes, they got the same survival benefits as men who were sweating it out for 5 hours. Which could mean that you can spend the extra time doing literally anything else, reading a book, watching reality TV, perhaps even helping those who are still lifting weights for another 2 hours. Speaking of weights specifically, the study also looked at muscle strengthening activities. What were the findings? Women hit peak benefits from just 1 strength session a week, and men needed 3 to get the same gains. Now, of course, this does not mean you should cancel your workouts or cut down on the amount of exercise you're putting in. The researchers emphasize that more exercise is still good. Women do continue to see benefits even beyond the 2.5-hour mark. But if you are short on time or just not feeling fit enough to work out, science now says no need for guilt. For decades now, scientists have talked about plants responding to sound waves, with over 200 studies suggesting flora can literally hear what's happening in their environment. From rice paddies in Asia to vineyards in France, farmers have secretly serenaded their crops with everything from Mozart to Metallica. But now new research has shattered every assumption about what plants actually crave. The gardening world has been turned upside down in a way by researchers who've just proven what green-fingered rebels have suspected for years. Plants are classical music fans. Now a study that's sending shockwaves through botanical circles. Pak choi plants exposed to sublime concerts did not just survive, they absolutely thrived, growing heavier and more luxurious than their rock and roll counterparts. Researchers tested the effects of different musical genre on plant development using controlled growth chambers. The results were absolutely stunning. Classical music enhanced photosynthesis, boosted chlorophyll content, and made roots dig deeper into the earth, like nature was waltzing in a way. Meanwhile, the rock and roll exposed plants had lower biomass and even signs of stress responses, as if they'd been to a bad concert. Why the difference? What explains this? Scientists believe it is the frequency and the rhythm of the music. Classic compositions mirror the natural vibrations found in the environment: wind, bird calls, rain, while loud, erratic beats disrupt the plant's internal processes. Beyond pak choi, this discovery may transform vertical farming, greenhouses, and even household gardening. Soundscapes might soon be as essential as fertilizers. Music, it turns out, is not just food for the soul, it's fuel for the leaves. And as humanity looks for smarter, greener ways to feed our planet, maybe the next agricultural revolution will have a soundtrack, and it won't be Metallica. Are you a vegetarian or a meat eater? Does that have anything to do with how power hungry you might be? Does that make you wonder what could possibly be the link between the two? Let's just break this down for you. New research claims vegetarians may be more power hungry and rebellious than meat eaters. You heard that right. This new study basically challenges age-old stereotypes about vegetarians being peaceful and low-key. It found that vegetarians tend to be less focused on tradition, conformity, benevolence than meat eaters. Instead, they are more likely to value achievement, incentives, and power. The study basically shows that the differences were modest but meaningful, with vegetarians showing a greater leaning towards traits often viewed as manly. And in contrast, meat eaters placed more emphasis on security, tradition, kindness. The results suggest that even though vegetarians may be more sensitive to the pain and suffering of animals and maybe more aware of threats to the environment than non-vegetarians, this sensitivity and awareness does not necessarily reflect the basic human value of benevolence. And the study suggests that even small differences in values can add up to big effects over time. Just to sum this up, the study found that vegetarians on average have a greater desire to wield power than their meat-eating counterparts. The sensitivity and awareness in vegetarians does not necessarily reflect the basic human value of benevolence, statistics indicating that only 6% of adults in the UK identified as vegetarian and 3% as vegan. But these numbers are growing. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. We're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world.